This is Joel Webbin. He is I'm comfortable calling him a neo-Nazi. Like, there are different wings of the Republican Party right now, and he fits most cleanly into the neo-Nazi wing. Not the white supremacist one, not the Zionist one, but the neo-Nazi one. Listen to what he said recently.
If you're a Christian white parent who loves the Lord and loves your children, that you need to have the talk.
He's a pastor.
The talk that we're referencing is the talk that takes your children according to their maturity at the proper time, the appropriate time, and says, there are certain parts of town that you cannot go. And there are certain people that you cannot be around.
Yep.
Right? If there's someone who is black in our church, and they've been in our church, and we know them, and they love the Lord Jesus Christ, great. We're not talking about that person, right. But we're talking about when you go into a crowd of people. If you go into a crowd of strangers, and they're white strangers, there's some danger. If they're black strangers, there is 30 times more danger. Them's the facts. And it is actually...
Those are not the facts, first of all. And second, he's trying to instruct his congregation, his audience of millions, to judge people based on their skin. He is trying to instill racism. He's trying to stoke racism in people. What purpose does this serve? How does this make society better? For you to try to make your children afraid of black people. How does that make anything better? Unreasonably afraid of black people, by the way. What situation are you even talking about where you would be in the middle of a crowd of all black people anyway? When does that ever happen? And I'm sure you notice at the beginning of this, he said, there are certain people that we shouldn't hang around. Pretty clear what he's saying, right? We have fallen pretty hard. I haven't seen racism like this brazen and blatant and open in maybe ever. I mean, not this specifically, but this moment in history in my life. I haven't seen it this open and brazen in my life. Usually they say it behind your back, or they'll say it quietly in a smaller setting. You hear it circulating around the school or whatever. But to comfortably come out as a public figure and say shit like this, not to mention Forgiato Blow's recent song. I mean, I already did a video on this, so I'm not going to do another one. But this song right here.
Whoa, we need a big tall tree and a short piece of rope. Hang them up high at sundown. Leave them swinging so the folks all know you don't mess around in our town.
That is fucking sick, right? That attitude was stoked and encouraged and built up by this guy and people like him. Vile, evil, racist, with absolutely no point behind it but to hurt other people, and that is it.
Failure of your parental duty. White parents, please hear me. If you teach your children growing up, if you lie to them and say all people and all races of people in our country are the same, they are not. You are actually depriving your child of factual, truthful information that could save their life.
Like, what circumstance do you think these children would need to be saved from, and could be saved by you telling them black people are dangerous and evil and should be avoided? Absolutely disgusting shit, dude. Evil human being. Really. I don't know how else to frame this or how to interpret this. Not even close to the first time he said it, though. Again, this guy has millions of followers. He's not a nobody. He created a whole dating platform for Christians to date each other without having to deal with all that pesky race stuff. I'm sure it's obvious by now that he's opposed to interracial marriage, but if I need to drive that final nail into the coffin, his counterpart, his friend, his colleague, Doug Wilson, that works with him all the time, says interracial marriage is dangerous and bad and should be reconsidered, basically. Interracial marriage is where we are now. Interracial marriage. Listen to this one.
By the way, guys, check out my new shop, owenmorgan.com/shop. I have a bunch of really cool designs on there.
When we moved to Texas, I needed to get a new cardiologist. And so my wife, she does a lot of this for me because before we had kids, she was an RN. And she knows a lot more than I do. And I let her read those books. She read some medical
Believe it or
books.
not.
Yeah.
They're laughing, but he's 100% serious. He allowed her to read those books. And I'll show you in a minute him saying he tells his wife which books she's allowed to read. This is not a joke.
So she's doing the research and looking at these things, and she shows me two doctors, both with this within the same practice, same company, hospital, and saying, do you like one over the other? And one was a young white dude, and one was a young black dude. And I said, I prefer the young white dude, and this is why. The reason why is not because I'm white, but because we currently live in a historical moment in the West, and particularly in these United States, where I know that both of these guys could be perfectly qualified. But I also know that if there's a chance that one of them was not qualified and was given a free pass, it'd be the black guy.
That's nonsense, actually. It would be the white guy that got the free pass. The black guy had to work way harder to get to where he was. Trust me, DEI does not hire the black person over the white person. It is DEI or affirmative action or whatever was an attempt to make it so that white people did not unfairly and undeservedly take positions that were better, that had more qualified black candidates. That was the point of DEI and affirmative action. If you see a black person in a position, they are there because they succeeded gloriously. You see a white person in that position, I mean, I don't know, maybe. I've seen a lot of dummies that are white in the medical field. Look at RFK. He's not even in the medical field. He pretends to be. Tons and tons and tons of people who are dummies. But trust me, breaking into a field as a black person or even as a woman or whatever is an uphill battle. Way more difficult than being white. And he has to know that, right? He has to know that. Sign up for my Patreon. I'd really appreciate that very much. It would mean so much to me. This is like a really precarious moment in history, in U.S. history, and for me personally, so it would mean a lot if you sign up for my Patreon. Check out cultarchive.org. I did a cult test, basically, where you can see if you're in a cult, and you can look at the historical tests of other groups that already went through this. Also, check out my merch. I have a whole bunch of really cool shirts and stuff. Really interesting. I would really appreciate that.
I know that young white guy, there's no way he got a free pass.
He lives in another reality. Completely different reality than us. Here's another clip from this dude. I mean, let's just hit all of the racist clips that he's laid down over the years. And these are all recent, by the way. These are in the past 18 months, all of them.
Like, I walk around my neighborhood, and it's not that there are different shades of, white and brown. Who cares?
Who cares? Right, exactly. Why are you even paying any attention?
No, like full, straight up Hindu garb at our neighborhood swimming pool.
What, people wear different clothing than you?
That my daughter is asking, I'm trying to explain. She's like, what, like, and I don't even know what country I'm in my own neighborhood. I don't know where I am. It's, the number of, when we go on a family walk, the number of Pakistani, Hindu, all these different.
Why did you name Pakistani? That's a race. That's an ethnicity. What does that have to do with literally anything? And Hindu is obviously tied to India. I doubt they're even Hindu religiously, or I doubt he has any way to know that they're religiously Hindu. He's looking at their clothing and making a determination about where they probably lived or came from based on that clothing. That's pure, unadulterated racism.
Not just ethnicities, but religions with visible religious outfits.
Then why'd you say Pakistani?
And the same thing, like when we go to Costco, I'm like, where am I? And so like it's rare. Like we'll go on a family walk, and every now and then we'll pass by, a white family that's a man and a woman and has more than one kid. And
brother, what? Come on, really? You can't be serious here. Something like 80% of the U.S. is white, isn't it? Hang on, let me see. The vast majority of minority groups, like racial minorities, ethnic minorities, live in cities. Most of them are not in rural areas. White alone, not Hispanic or Latino, about 62%. White alone or in combination with other races, 71%. Hispanic or Latino of any race, which can include white, 18.7%. And you're telling me that you very rarely pass a white person with a family? Please.
And every time I see it, I'm like, I don't want to be this way.
Then don't be this way. Are you telling me you see what's wrong with it? You seeing how it's evil?
But I feel like this like small sense of relief. Like, I see you. I'm glad you're one of my neighbors. Because at the end of the day, again, it's not about whiteness, but at the end of the day, if things get rough, I don't know if my Hindu neighbor is going to fight to save the lives of my children.
If things get rough, how would things get rough? And what do you mean they wouldn't fight for your children? Why wouldn't they fight for your children? You mean if there's a fire or something and they have to like get in your house to save the kid? Of course they f***ing would. Why would you think they wouldn't? Or do you mean when things get rough like a race war starts? Which is exactly what he's stoking, by the way. Is that what you mean? The coming race war that you are trying to make a thing? You don't know if they defend you in that? This guy is a bottomless pit of disgusting shit to say. Just absolutely evil. And I've said this a couple of times already in these videos this week, but the divide is too big. I'm not making content for MAGA to try to deconvert anymore. I would love it if a MAGA person was listening and thought through what I was saying, but I don't believe that it's going to make a difference for MAGA people. And I am now talking to people on the left. People like this will face accountability. Give it some time. They will. There was a massive movement in the 1930s, 20s, and 30s in Germany against Jews. It wasn't just Nazis. Jews were very unpopular at the time because of the Protocols of the Elders of Zion propaganda document that released in 1902, and a bunch of conspiracies that came along and blamed everything on them. Even in the mid-1800s, Jews were to blame for a ton of stuff, even though they weren't actually to blame for any of that. They were being blamed for it. We don't really have that same thing in America where immigrants have been an eternal scapegoat by everybody that way in the United States for like 100 years. They've been the eternal scapegoat for like the right. But even that, it's been a small subset of the right until recently, and now it's a big subset. It's basically everybody on the right now. Germany had a hard time coming back from what they came back from because anti-Semitic sentiment was so widespread. It's not like that here. We are the enemy. We, like anybody to the left of hunting immigrants for sport, is the enemy here. And I believe that as a result, it's going to completely flip sooner rather than later. Anyway, this dude's just vile and disgusting and evil. I really don't see any way out aside from Spruikhammer courts or new Nuremberg trials, basically. Not like military tribunals, but courts that determine your degree of culpability in what happened in the 2020s in the United States. We'll see. Tell me what you think in the comments.